the idea that a detective, and I stopped, we were talking about this before, and we got off on another tangent, but a detective can testify not only to the authenticity of something that he downloaded, but then proceed to give eyewitness testimony about what he's seeing and characterize it in a particular way. And specifically to say, well, I saw him raise the gun when I pinched to zoom on my iPhone, something that can't be replicated or produced to the defense, and that they're not going to object to that as a matter of course and say, Your Honor, we don't know what he saw. He can't even reproduce the amount of zoom that he gave. We can't get this video into evidence. They haven't produced it. We haven't had our expert able to review it. The fact that they allowed him to say those words without objection is one of the, again, it's one of these areas where I always struggle to say malpractice because it could be a tactical decision. But to me, it's like, this looks like malpractice.
It was. I mean, what advantage do you have to have that evidence coming in? What advantage do you have to this blot evidence coming in just because you didn't understand the technology well enough to impeach it and didn't prep the judge enough to know how to keep it out?
Print off the Wikipedia article and hand it to the judge. Judge, this guy, their expert, can't tell you with bicubic interpolation how this red and the blue thing is, what color that next dot is going to be. On Wikipedia, it tells you with this type of interpolation exactly what color it's going to be. It's going to be purple. Of course it's going to be purple. It's going to create a color that isn't there because that's how this works. It's not only available on Wikipedia, but this guy's an expert and he can't explain it. How stupid is this, Judge?
Plus, they should have had the video evidence to rebut it ready to go.
Yes.
And to be able to show him right there and say, this is clearly false. This is completely false. Though Binger opened the door when he was sitting there saying, oh, I don't know where Zeminski is. You can't really see much in this video. That's the point. And the point, like Corey made it decently, it could have been made a little better in the sense that the point to make to the judge is there evidence here that is sufficiently clear that a reasonable juror, beyond a reasonable doubt, could conclude provocation?
Right.
It's nowhere even close to that standard. It's attempting to misuse technology to lie to the jury, to inflame them in a particular manner that's legally irrelevant. And if the judge knew the background of a big problem with pretrial publicity, he'd exclude it in 5 seconds. He would have rejected the provocation instruction in 5 seconds. This was failing to understand the risk of pretrial publicity is the primary reason there's risk right now. Think about all the other stuff. Of course, putting in your own exhibit that had this in it, just monumentally stupid. That's clear legal malpractice in my view.
Yes.
And then letting in all the prejudicial super chats, and then all the prejudicial hearsay. There's hearsay of, and now people understand the significance of it, of that guy, of different people saying that, pointing out to Kyle, he pointed a gun at me earlier that night. And there's the one guy he said yes to sarcastically, but if you actually listen to the videos, that happens repeatedly. So none of that hearsay should have been let in. None of those super chats should have been let in. They associated Kyle with the militia. They associated Kyle with people saying, way to take out the leftist trash. They associated Kyle with saying, this is what democracy looks like, LOL. All those things. And I mean, like the TikTok, there was his photo could come in. There's no reason for his tagline or the title to come in. There's no reason for that. We know that it's what a teenage boy jokes about, but the jury could easily misconstrue that, easily misunderstand that. What was the relevance of that? How was that not more unfairly prejudicial than meaningfully probative?
Right.
Just mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake.
And the one thing I was like, I think how they would have won the provocation argument today was simple. And they spent way too much time on it. And all they had to do was say, Judge, at the beginning of this, they gave you a picture. And that picture, you said you can't see anything because it's a blob. You have seen a blown up picture. It's giant for you, Your Honor. And you've said it's a blob. It doesn't show anything. What the state is not telling you, because they've now said that that's their worst evidence, even though just a second ago it was their best evidence. Now they're saying the best evidence is a video. That picture, Your Honor, is from that video. You just said you cannot see what's in that picture. And it is the one frame that they picked, the best frame that they could possibly find to make their case. And now they're saying, oh, no, you have to see the video. But that is from the video, Your Honor. So that by definition has to be their best evidence. That's why they picked it. And if you can't see it there, there's no way you can see it on the video. And there's no reasonable jury who can see that. And that's all that, to me, that's all they needed to say. When they say, oh, well, you have to see our video. You just say, actually, Your Honor, that's from the video. We don't need to see the video. It's right there in front of you. You can't make it out here. You can't make it out there.
And if you can't make it out, that's not sufficient evidence for a reasonable juror to conclude beyond a reasonable doubt that that's what it is. Because technically, that beyond a reasonable doubt applies to everything. It's every single factual determination they're making is beyond a reasonable doubt. And so you conclude beyond a reasonable doubt that Kyle picked up and lifted the gun? Would a reasonable juror, beyond a reasonable doubt, not Binger, a reasonable juror, conclude beyond a reasonable doubt that that is Kyle pointing a gun when you, the judge, are saying you can't see what the heck it is, and frankly, nobody in the room can. And and as you mentioned earlier, you're not even allowed to let the jurors look at something over and over and over again, right? And we're sitting here looking at it over and over and over again, and we can't identify it. That ends the debate. Just like the law is void for vagueness, if you're confused about what it means, it's only an unreasonable juror could conclude beyond a reasonable doubt that's Kyle Rittenhouse pointing a gun at somebody. And
strategically, the judge has ruled that the evidence or the instructions coming in, and then 5-10 minutes later, they're having the discussion that it's unduly prejudicial to give the jury unfettered access to the video. Do you say, Your Honor, I know we've gone over this, but I just want to draw attention to the fact that that's what the state had to do to get the provocation instruction. Do you risk saying that? Because it's a risky proposition to try and relitigate. But
if it's up to me, I mean, depending on the circumstances, how you read the jury. But my view is very tough to read the jury. And if you knew though about the pretrial publicity, you would be just seeking mistrials all the time throughout the trial. Make it be a perfect trial. Until then, mistrial. Unless you thought you would lose this judge, which I don't think there's any reason to believe. This judge will be there until he's no longer living. That's retirement ain't in his DNA.
No,
and so
he'd be long gone.
Exactly. And so and there'll be pressure on Binger not to bring a retrial, depending on how things flesh out. But this was supposed to be a shining moment. Instead, he got lectured by the court, and the left thinks he's secretly sabotaging the case. So his one audience is not his audience that he thought it would be, not his cheering audience. And so he may reconsider how eager he is. And Grosswitz is locked into what he said. You can't take that back. Key evidence you've already got locked in. My guess is second time around, those car source people probably just take the fifth and stay off the stand rather than be dumb enough to commit another round of perjury.
I can't